Hi everybody, and welcome back again to the Bat Cave. I hope everyone's doing all right. I'm just trying to get the camera to line up properly. I've just given you a tip. If you've got one of the crank balancing tools, you can just literally take the bearings off, put your crank in there. It supports where the pin goes down, and basically, if I can just block that, put your race on for your bearing. There you go. 5-minute job, supporting it. You're not damaging your crankshaft. So literally took me a couple of minutes to do it. It took longer to take the tool apart because it's got the bearings on here where you're truing up your crank, but most people won't have that. But what you do need to do is support your, pardon me, your crankshaft in the middle. So we've got a nice, if we turn the crankshaft around, you can see that it's perfect all the way around. Right, excuse me. So what the job entails today is, we've already done this now. I prefer not to heat the race if I can help it. Don't heat these bearings. And what I've done is the named part of the bearing to face the crankshaft, so you can actually see it's a Koyo, brand spanking new. Brilliant. So it's the wider bearing, by the way, than the Li1. I'm just trying to see if I've kept the Li1. No, I haven't. Sod's law, innit? But I've got a skinnier one. I'll just dig that one out. Is that? In 2 seconds, I'll go through my bearing box. That could be the skinnier one. Yes, it is. So let me open the packet. So, oh, sorry about kicking the camera, but that's an Li1 to give you the difference. That's why I always like to upgrade to a GP one. As I say, the name is going to be going towards the crank, like so. But I'll put that back in its bag. What we've got to do now is warm up the mag side to accept the main part of the bearing, which, if I shift you over, excuse the camera work. Get that out of the way. I can see where you are. So we need to heat up this casing. My tip is, don't put the oil seal in first. Put that in when you're quite happy that this bearing's going to seal in it. So this bearing's got to drop down that way round so the name faces you. That keeps the name part of it where, you know, like the way it came apart basically is the way the bearing's going back together again. So I'll put that somewhere safe. I'll be warming this up for about 10 minutes with my blowtorch, and then I'll cut back in again. Right, I'm hoping that's warm enough now. So I'm getting the outer seal, which seals towards us, put that in place, and that should just push in. I've got to watch because it's bloody hot. The socket. And that's home. In fact, it's a little bit proud there. That looks pretty good now. Then we've got a spacer that goes in above that. sits in flat, which it is. And then we've got our bearing, which is here. And if you remember, I said the words towards you, and if we get it straight, it should just drop in. I don't think I'm dropping that in straight at the moment, but I'll get a tool and just try and straighten it up, because it should just fall in like that. I don't think I'm actually level, that's the problem, why it's not just dropping in. I think it's higher at the back. It is going, but very, very slowly. There we go, we're level. Once it goes level, then it goes in quite easily. So all I need to do now is get a smaller bearing race, and I'll cut back in. So for that, I'm going to use the back hub spare washer that I've got. And I'm going to use that one because I need to make sure I'm not damaging the end. And just tap that bearing home. That's it. Notice the sound change. That's home. So that bearing's in, turning free. Then we've got our Viton seal, which I'm going to grease up prior to putting in. And again, use the same washer and just tap that oil seal home. And what you want is to clear this groove here, which that one is done. Like I say, remarkably easy. So always keep one of these as a press tool. It's the perfect size for doing what I've just done, and I hope you can see that you've got a groove there all the way around. So if I stick that back away again, bear in mind this will be hot still. So all I need to do now is put this, circle it, give it a clean, because it's probably picked up some rubbish from being on top of the table just then. And what I'm going to do is just basically put the circlip into the groove. So excuse me while I do that, because the camera is in the way. Then all we have to do is wait for that to cool down, pack it with grease, and then we can stick it on the engine. But what we need to do first is to get our crankshaft in. Now that will go in on that bearing, like so, and spin. Yeah. So we've got seal here and a seal on the crank side. I just need to give the crankshaft a clean with some brake cleaner. So I'm spraying that with some brake cleaner and use the clean rag to dry it off. There's no trickery in this, it's just literally give everything a good clean. While that's cooling down, I'll just switch off, and then we'll be pulling the crank into the casing next. So what I just need to do is rebuild the crank truing device basically, so put the bearings back on and then I've got somewhere for the crank to sit. Back in a minute. Right, because we're using Viton seals, these do actually seem to be quite flexible, but I know the last lot I used I had to warm up. I think we'll be all right there because they are very, very pliable. I'll be surprised if that leaks. But what I had to do before was to heat the the little get my teeth in, the oil seal just a bit, set that to about 100 and just give it a quick wipe round so that it becomes pliable. But I think that one, I'm quite happy with that, to be honest, so I'm not going to heat it up. I'm just going to put the crank straight in. So what you do with the crank is make sure that you've got loads and loads of oil and grease on it. Where's my oil gone? There it is. So I'm just going to spray the whole crankshaft up basically, and in here. And then what we need to do is get the crankshaft in, get that out of the way. That's so we don't lose them, as you know. But right, so stick it all the way back in at an angle and just push it around. It should eventually line up into the hole. Engine being around there, so it's probably, there you go, had it too high. So it's loosely in the bearing, like so, and then what we need to do is pull it in towards the drive side. So let me just get this put out the way, and I'll just stick these back in for the time being. And what I use is, unlike the Vespers where I've got a pull-in tool for this, I use old bearings and I use the drive spline, and again I'm going to need to give that a wipe. So start it off with the spline itself, washers, like so, and hopefully my bolt will be long enough. It should be. There we go. So that's be nice and central. So just get a socket set. Which I should have had ready, shouldn't I? One of these days I'll get myself sorted. It should be. Now we need it to be tightened, and we just hold it at the moment while we started tightening this, like so. That's it till we get it tightened. And then what I do is put a screwdriver in there or something to lock it up, preferably plastic, back end of a pair of pliers, like so. They'll do the job. There is a holding tool, but this is not level at the moment anyway, so just lock it up so the crank can't move. And then what we're doing is, if you can see that, we're pulling the crankshaft in little by little, yeah. Hopefully you can see that moving, because I can. Yeah, rotate it around a bit, like so, and then do it again, lock it in place again. I'll do this till I get it in because the camera is in the way again. Right, so I've tightened the nut up, or the bolt I should say. Why do I call nuts bolts and bolts nuts? I'm quite happy with that. It's running pretty true. That just seems to have gone too easy, doesn't it? It's just tightened it up. You can't beat new bearings though, can you? New crank, new bearings. Brilliant. So all I've got to do now is lock that off on the top and take the drive side bolt out. So just stick the screw, well, whatever you've got, basically plastic, rubber, like that. There you go. It's not even that tight. And take the shaft off again, just use that as your pulling tool basically. And if you can look there, the crank is rotating pretty freely. I mean, I did spray quite a lot of penetrating oil, 3-in-1 oil on it, so it's turning nice and free. Yeah, and we haven't hit anything, not crank wise anyway. So I'll put that on there, and I'm hoping now that we have got a cool mag side, so if I get the engine closer to you, like here, and bring you up a bit, see what you can see. You're being a bit closer than what you are. Might do it. Get that foot down. Up a bit. Right, block you off there. Right. So what we need to do now is on our mag flange, which is, it's just tepid now.